Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. So September already, if you can actually believe it. In fact, the end of September, that's pretty crazy. So thank you for joining us today. Just before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping though. If you've got any questions during the presentation, please just drop them into the question box. We love having your questions. As we've seen just in the video below, how to get to them. And we'll try and answer as many live as possible, but if we don't get to all of them, or if there's some really curly ones we need to get back to you on, we'll send you an email response. So if you've been to our sessions before, you'll know that we have a few polls throughout the session. We're going to be doing 2 polls today. Really encourage you to respond to those. It's always very insightful to see how different people are using SuperMate and their insights. If you miss any of today's presentation, don't worry. We are recording this and you will get a link to a recording of this webinar in the next few days. We also posted onto webinar to our YouTube channel where you'd be able to find all this one and our previous webinars as well. So my name is Eugene. I'm the Business Development Manager for SuperMate here at Super Concepts. And I'll be sort of hosting today's webinar, and our wonderful Reese Hopper, who's our Manager of Product Design, is going to be taking us through a few of recent highlights and some new features that are on their way. Unfortunately, we don't have any other guests today. Craig Stone, as you would know, who's been in our previous videos, he's not presenting today at all. So just the 2 of us to keep you company today. From our agenda, we'll be in our SuperMate demo. We're going to just be doing a review of the sort of June, July, and August release highlights. Then we're going to be looking at a very exciting new feature will be coming called the Advisor Client View, and then we will have our Q&A session towards the end of that. So please, but obviously, during that session, during the demo, feel free to add your questions at any stage. As I mentioned, I'm going to be handing over to Reese now, who's going to be doing a bit of a release highlights overview, as well as our new Advisor Client View before we head into the Q&A session. So Reese, welcome, and over to you.
Thanks, Eugene. As Eugene mentioned, I'll be covering off the July-August release highlights. We have had 14 releases in the last couple of months. Released 273 items. Obviously, an hour won't be enough time to cover off all 273 items. So I'll cover off the highlights and then go into Advisor Client View. The highlights that I'll be covering today, we've got some new letter tokens that will have conditional letters applied to them. Query template enhancements. We've updated the pension screen. We have a way to change the workflow milestones. So for the people who use SuperMate's workflows, we can obviously change where the milestones appear on Client View and on admin site overview. We've brought in the secondary advisor relationships from Classic into Web, and we have additional details that you can export from the activities taken screen just to help out gathering information. Okay, so I'll start off with the tokens. The 2 that I want to talk about today is the first trustee postal address one. This one's very helpful when you have when you want to send a letter to the trustee and the fund contact is different to the trustee. So for example, you have an advisor or a different third party who is normally the contact, but you do need to generate minutes that would be addressed and posted to the trustee. Should also point out with this trustee letter token, it will pick up the first active trustee from the signature block. So if you had a trustee that was in signing position 1, that's who it will pick up. But if that trustee has passed away and there's a date of death entered into the system's smart enough to go, okay, I shouldn't be addressing things to the trustee that has passed away. I'll address it to the second one. The other letter token we have, it's lump sum death benefits, there's been some requests to be able to create minutes where if someone's passed away, then we can include the a table that has all the lump sums that were paid from the death benefit. So not pension payments from the death benefit from the deceased member income stream. It'll be lump sum death benefits. And so what I'll do is I'll quickly bring up the template, which I've seen be used, where we can see here we've got the letter tokens here that's being addressed to the first trustee. There's a letter that we send as CSMs to the client detailing what's going to be included, and then the minute which has address, date here, and a table where it'll include who the beneficiary is, the amounts, type of payments, any additional details. So that's where I've included the conditional release and the date of the benefit payment. And when I run this on a fund that has a death benefit, lump sums, this is what I get. I get a letter. It's addressed to Jack. Jeff was the one who passed away on this date. And then this is when all the death benefit lump sums were occurring. And that way you can just have a neat minute. You don't have to manually update it. You can just produce it from SuperMate, and it's got the details in it. We've also created a condition relating to this. So I'll just navigate to SuperMate. And I will go to my report suite section. And I've added the death minute as a letter in the report suite section. If I select conditions on it, it's a client entity type letter. So I have a bunch of conditions which will say when this letter is being included or not. There was already like all active members, and then there's one we've added in previous releases relating to PAYG summaries, and this one is members with lump sum death benefits during the period. So you can create this minute, and you can add it to the end of year pack, or you can add it to any other report suites. Add the condition that this letter only gets generated for members that have lump sum death benefits during the period, and then that minute will only get generated for those members. So if you have 4 members in the fund, one passed away, one had lump sum death benefits from it being paid for the one that passed away, this letter will only get produced for that member. And if you haven't seen the other conditional inclusions, just reach out to us and we can show you, or just have a play, because we have ones based on pension entities, fund entities, etc. Okay, back to my PowerPoint. So the next change I want to highlight is the query templates. We've split the query template name and the subject. Purpose of that is that we found that people have had query templates and they name the query template a certain thing so they could find it quickly, but then in the subject of the query they want the subject to be something else. So for example, this is a template I want to use in the end of year for pension minimums, but the subject I want to have is pension minimums and the member I'm going to relate it to. The next item that we've covered is we've added an entity field, so you can now say these queries relate to a pensioner, an account, a member, or a fund, and then you can also include you can include letter tokens that relate to that entity type. So before all these items were released, you could only include fund level letter tokens. Now you can include any letter token into queries, and then you can also choose the entity. And when you raise the query, it'll respond based on that entity. So I'll quickly navigate back to SuperMate, to the queries templates section. Here I have my end of year minimum one, and you can see I've got different entity types. One other thing I forgot to mention was that we have put validations into this screen. So if you put the wrong token in, it'll pick up on it. What I mean by is if I'll put this in, I'll start typing a letter token. If I select save, it'll pick up that the letter token is invalid. So you can't add letter tokens in and it'll tell you which one it is. You can't add invalid letter tokens. So I'll just select cancel on that and navigate to future super fund. Go to the, well, I can raise a query from any screen. So I'll just go to this one, select end of year, say that I want a 26 financial year and choose Jeff. And you can see here that the subject now says pension minimums for Jeff. It's grabbed the dollar figures for the what has been paid today and what the minimum is for Jeff. And so now I've got a query template set up where I can just choose which template, who it relates to, what financial year, and it'll fill in the details for me, send. Reduces the amount of mistakes that happen, and it also just speeds up creating queries where I have to type this out or look up the numbers. Sorry, the other thing I should point out is that we've also expanded the file limit to 30 megabytes. Before it was only 10. We expanded to 30 megabytes, which really reinforces the positives of using client queries. So in the previous poll, there wasn't anyone using client queries that's on this webinar. But for security purposes, it's really good to use client queries because when clients log into the portal and they upload documents and respond to things through the portal, it's being uploaded into a secure area. Whereas if you're emailing things back and forth, obviously you're limited to what that email server can handle, which a lot of the times is only 10 megabytes. We can do 30 megabytes, so we can get those bigger files across. But also, emails can get intercepted. Whereas when items are uploaded into the system through client view or through SuperMate, it's in a secure portal. That cannot get intercepted. Okay. The next highlight, the pension screen, we changed the site overview round, the site overview card round, where we split it into financial year. So you can see pensions that do require attention for the prior financial year, 2025, and items that need to be looked at for this financial year. Also has the active pensions once possible to get started. And we've also updated the click through once you click through to it. Let's get on, navigate back to SuperMate, the site overview screen. And you can see here I've got a TRIS for someone who's over 65. I haven't breached the maximums in 26, but I do have some pensions for 25 financial year, which I need to look at. So if I select the chevron, I'll move to the 26 financial year. I can select this and see, get a breakdown per member. When I say per member, a member could have multiple pension accounts, so we just consolidate the figures. And you can see here for the HM advisor, it says one pension has a max, which means that this person has multiple pension accounts, but one pension account has a max. Whereas for Marge, there's 30,000 max and a 12,000 minimum. So what that would mean is that this person only has one pension, and I can select view and I can see the breakdown here where, yep, okay, here's Homer Brown, he's got a tris, but he's over 65. That's the pension with the max. Once I convert it to a tris in retirement, that maximum will go away. But for now, it just says you have one pension with a max. Be careful. Obviously, if it's a legitimate setup where some don't have maximums and some do, you don't want to tell them to pay too much pensions out in case they exhaust all the account-based pensions and then go over the max for the pension type that has a maximum. And then here you can see Marge has the one pension account, and we open it up. But when you look at it, open up a member to look at the pensions, we have all the members on the one screen. So say if one member hasn't reached the minimum yet, you can see if you could smooth the pension payments from another member across. The workflow milestones. Right now, a lot of people would see in the site overview that the SMSF, the end of year tracking tile, will say the statuses that don't relate to workflows, that are the standard ones that we have for the end of year status. We've included a new system default, so you can say, if you use workflow, say use the workflow milestones, so that way you can see the milestones that you want to report on. And this also flows through to client view and what will be showing from an advisor point of view. The system defaults, once again, settings, system defaults, I type in tracking, it'll bring up the method. You can choose between default or milestones. Milestones will be the workflow milestones. Default will just be the standard options. Change this to default. And I navigate back to the site overview. You can see that this is now showing the standard end of year statuses in SuperMate, not the workflow milestones. Secondary advisors. I mentioned before that this is a relationship that existed already in Classic, and we were unsure if people were actually using it. So we didn't bring it across the web straight away. We've got a bit of feedback from clients that say we do use the advisor secondary, and where we probe into it, dig down into why they use it. It seems that some people have internal, some businesses have like an advisor type person that's internal, but then they also have advisors that are external to the firm. So this gives you the opportunity to say, okay, well, this is their advisor that's outside the business. This is the advisor or financial planner that we have in this business. Or, if there's different advice type relationships that a fund has, you can now record them both. Obviously, you do that in the fund details section under relationships. You can see here I've got Belinda, who's the advisor. Then I can just select added relationship. And I can go place a secondary and add Frank Brown as a secondary advisor. And that way I can provide client view to both Belinda and Frank. They can log in, they can see their respective clients' details. You can create letters, and there's specific letter tokens relating to the secondary advisor compared to the advisor. You can send letters to different people depending on the relationships that you maintain within your business. The last item is the activity statements. One, just realized that I didn't have my slide in here for the activity statements columns that we have added. Previous webinar I showed you about the activity statement screen where you can lodge activity statements through SuperMate. It uses SPR and it lodges it directly through SuperMate. On the screen, we do have the fund, period, form, due date, lodgement status, lodgement date, action. This is a demo site, so obviously I don't have any activity statements to lodge or that have been lodged. But when this screen loads, it's the columns are quite full, so we didn't really have much room to add additional items, and they're probably items that people don't want to view constantly. So we've come up with an idea of, for those details, if you export the table, the details will be included in that table. And where I've seen, or where this request has come from, is that people like to go, okay, well, what activity statements do I have for my funds? The additional columns will be payment amount, the BPay reference, and the BPay biller code, and then they can just copy and paste the columns from the payment amounts, biller code, BPay reference into a bank file, send it across, and have all the activity statement payments processed automatically, or just export it out to review the data and contact clients which have high payment amount, or focus on the ones that are the highest payment amount, etc. So this is a spreadsheet which I exported for a site where I've blanked out some of the information about the relevant funds, but you can see here you've got the period, you've got the type, what form it is, the status, and you've got all the payable amounts. The biller code's obviously going to be the same, but the BPay references also be included as a column. Quite handy when you're getting ready to make the payments on behalf of clients, or want to talk to clients about an amount that they have outstanding. Okay. Now, over to advisor client view, one of the main tickets of this webinar. Last webinar, I spoke about some of the client view changes that we've made on a fund level for direct clients, or if an advisor has access to SuperMate client view, then they can drill down into the direct client screens, have a look. It's not quite released yet. We still have it hidden behind a feature flag, but we are going to release it shortly. And it is the advisor view. So if you have advisors in your site, you can invite them to client view, and then they can see a large, they can see site overview for the funds that they look after. And we also have specific screens where they can drill down into data from a site level. All right, so I am just going to open up SuperMate. This is the advisor client view site overview. You can see it. This is a broken down version. This advisor only has one fund, which hasn't been completed for 2025. Total value of all funds. So if they have multiple funds, I find that advisors really like to know, how much funds they have under management. 10 funds, multiple millions. Outstanding queries that they need to attend to. This advisor's got 13 to attack. Funds out of strategy. So compared to the investment strategy and the asset allocations to the fund, this one will highlight the funds that have fallen out of their investment strategy. Death benefit nominations to look at, whether there's no nomination, whether they're expiring soon, whether they're expired. The end of year tracking, they have the ability to go, okay, with this, where all my funds are up to. Pension details, so if they want to be proactive and contact clients and say, you missed you haven't paid the minimums yet, or you're above the maximum for 25, or you're above the maximum for 26. Same with contributions. You can see whether they're getting close to exceeding the cap, or if they've exceeded the caps, and the advisors can have that conversations directly with funds, with trustees. And asset allocation, there seems to be a bit of information that advisors like, where I would have found that asset allocation, obviously, when it relates to investment strategy, you want to be able to go, what's the fund's investment strategy and what's the asset allocation to compare it. But we've also found that advisors seem to like to know the asset allocation breakdown of the breakdown of asset allocation across all their funds. And you can see here, even though it is only one fund, you can see here this advisor would be able to jump in and go, okay, this is the asset allocation pre-pie chart. If they had multiple funds, they could see, oh, okay, well, most of my funds seem to be investing in shares, or most of my funds seem to be investing in direct property. Just gives them a breakdown of what their client base is investing in. That's a site overview. Has calls to action, has some interesting information that advisors seem to appreciate. They can, similar to at the administration view, they can jump up here, select advanced search to see a list of funds that they are the advisor of, or if they want to search for the advisor using additional details. Just navigate to a different advisor that I have set up, which has that multiple relationships. And you can see here on the fund list, it's got the name, type, fund code, ABN, but we've also included fund value. So if advisors want to go, okay, well, I want to list my funds and which ones have the most money, that they can use this, export it, select view to drill down, and review all the different fund level details for the client. And you can see here the asset allocation graph, the advisor that would have all the different items. But yeah, so I'll go back to the advanced search, jump in, and you can see that's how they can go and access the fund level menu items. I'm just going to navigate back to the site overview, drill down into some of these different screens. As I mentioned, they can select these chevrons or the menu items to go drill down into the calls to action. I'm just going to move down the different menu items. So the asset menu item on a site level, it has two tabs. It's got the assets, and it also has the asset allocation that's out of strategy. And the Pollock Super Fund has been identified. It's, even though the cash is within the range, the property, they've said 0% and other allocations 0%, but they have 54% direct property and 32% other allocations. And the investment strategy's been out for 528 days. This is another bit of information that we include for advisors, where days out of strategy is quite helpful. If it's 1 day out of strategy, maybe it's just a share fluctuation. Maybe there's a 5% drop in the share market. The advisor will go, okay, well, we probably should update the percentages to make sure that we get back in range, but maybe I could wait a couple of days and the stock market could recover and I don't have to actually contact the client to update their investment strategy. The other tab, I find this one quite helpful. And I should point out that from admin view, you can navigate to client view and use any of these screens. So if you see any of these screens, you think, hey, these are pretty helpful, you will be able to use them, but also send some feedback in, because some of these screens, if you find them helpful, in client view, we could possibly add them to the SuperMate version that you guys log into. All right, so assets, this is where you can break down, well, the advisor can break down and see what assets their funds are invested in. I've got all the assets at the moment, but I could drill down and say domestic shares. Show me all the domestic shares that are invested in. Show me all the properties. So come back with all the future super fund and the Pollock super fund. Both of them have invested in properties. But I can also search based on security ID, which you can do in the normal login for SuperMate. You can go to the asset overview on a site level. You can search by security ID. So here I can go BHP. I can look up all the funds that hold BHP. The query screen will look different to your version of the query screen, where the advisors just see what's outstanding and queries that have been resolved or with the account with the accountant. I mentioned it before that we have a system default to decide what shows up when sending queries. I've chose to show the brand rather than who's actually sending the queries, just so I've got multiple people working on multiple funds, and so they have a consistent experience of who is sending the queries. It'll just say the brand, SuperMate Accounting, and that way they won't see, Tom's name, Belinda's name, Jenny's name popping up as the people who are sending the queries. The pension screen, same as the administration view, except obviously advisors can only see their own funds. They'll be able to go, okay, well, show me all the active pensions for 26, select view. They'll be able to go, okay, have they met the pro rata minimum? If they're closing it, the pension down now, is there ways I can smooth pension payments between members? Death benefit nominations on a client level, they can look at, okay, which ones have who's got binding non-lapsing by just changing the status. So no expiry. They can look up all the binding non-lapsing ones. They can look up which ones expire soon, which ones have expired, who doesn't have nominations, and they can contact the clients which need addressing, but also if there's changes in legislation or they're getting deed reviews done and they need to see what kind of nominations exist, which will impact trust deed amendments, then they can come to the screen, have a look across their client base. Once again, it's in a table, so you can export it. The other screen that is on a site level is the contributions cap screen, where they can dive down and see all, which is 85% or over, where the concessional cap, obviously Kylie's exceeded that by $700, but also the non-concessional contributions, she's gone over 85%. So if I drill down to concessional exceeding cap, we'll see Kylie's details. If I say non-concessional 85 to 100%, I can see the members who are close to exceed the non-concessional contribution. How this is helpful, we can have the advisor can log in, see who's close, and then once again pick up the phone, have those kind of conversations with clients about adjusting their contributions or future contributions, warning them that they're exceeded their cap. The last screen we got, which is quite different, it's named the same as the admin view, which is the end of year tracking screen. The same similar screen exists in the administration version of SuperMate. The difference is that the status only has one status column, which is the one you want to display, whereas in administration view, if I jump into the end of year tracking screen, I've got the workflow milestone, and I've also got the status. I've got the tax refundable, payable amounts. I do have that in the end of year tracking for the admin view, but the difference is that we've got whether the estimates, what the prior year, what the prior year was. For Pollock Super Fund, I haven't completed the financials for this since 2022. So it just says prior years incomplete. It's got no comparison. This one, the status says work in progress, but I've actually already closed it. That's why the estimate's not there. And yeah, once again, if you put all the lodgement due dates in, it should show up correctly. If I navigate to the 24 financial year, I can see that, okay, these were all completed. These were the payable, this refundable amounts, and this is the prior year incomplete. So that's the site level screens that we've added to client view that the advisors will have access to. I'll mention again that you can click on the different funds to drill into them, and the advisors can still drill in and see what all the different menu items that are on a fund levels screen, to what trustees would see. Obviously, with trustees, they won't have access to that site level screen unless they are a trustee that has access to multiple funds. So if they are a trustee of a couple of funds, I think I've seen it a few times when I was an accountant, that they will get those extra screens so they can look at the data across both funds. Okay, that is all I was going to show today on the advisor client view. I will throw it back to Eugene.
There we go. Excellent. Well, I hope you've all found that useful. I do. I sort of learn a little bit more every time we have these sessions. So thanks, Reese. And again, please, if you do have any questions, drop them into the Q&A box, and we'll be happy to answer them. Don't forget that we have our SuperMate help portal that's available for you within the app, and you can reach it by clicking on the little question mark at the top right of your screen and selecting the help portal link, and that's going to take you to find answers to your frequently asked questions, or even if you just want to find out more about the capabilities that are within SuperMate. If you're not already using SuperMate, you're crazy. You have to get onto SuperMate. And we have some really, really competitive pricing. It's a really, really fantastic tool. Basically works out about $11 per month per fund, excluding GST. So $132 per year, excluding GST, for all these amazing features. We also do have our on-demand learning. So if you subscribe to SuperMate, you become part of that Super Concepts family, and you have access to our SMSF education services, which are provided by Craig, who has been a presenter on many of our webinars previously. So that brings us to our Q&A session. If you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A box right now, and we will take them on board. So let's just maybe give it a second or two if there's any questions. No questions. All right, cool. Well, thank you very, very much for your time. Oh, I might just go back and just quickly just share some of the results of that poll. Looks like Access is the main document provider that you guys use. Super Central and ClearDocs and M files coming in probably second there. Very interesting. Thank you for your responses there, and thank you for your time today. Thank you, Reese, for your presentation, and thanks to Han.
Okay, mate, thanks for having me.
And thanks to Han as well, who is in the background over here controlling all of the things that matter, so we don't look like complete idiots all the time. Thanks, Han, and thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you at the next session. Thank you very much. Bye.